Okay. Hello and welcome back to Walking Digital Corridors, the show where we talk to the people shaping how we build conversations at scale, walk with confidence in digital spaces, and drive real commercial momentum in a world that's changing faster than ever. Today's guest is someone who embodies that blend of science and soul in modern growth. Tyler Durman, it's great to have you on.
Excited to be here, and that's a wonderful intro. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So you've scaled startups through acquisition and now help high growth B2B companies cut through the noise with growth strategies that are as precise as they are human. And we'll come back to you in just a second because we're also going to talk about or deep dive into what is the conversation operating system and what that means for growth teams. You know, the power of brand in a sea of sameness and how to future-proof your strategy for the coming wave of agentic AI. So if you care about building demand the right way and doing it with both a plan and personality, then this one is for you. So let's dive in. So Taylor, for people who don't know you yet, who do you help? What problem do you solve, and what makes your approach different?
Yeah, so I mostly help B2B companies, especially SaaS companies, usually startups, but also some services businesses. I help them figure out how to get past stalling growth. So, especially if they're early stage, maybe the question they're asking is, how do we figure out the right marketing mix for us in terms of channels, offers, the audience we target? How do we figure out what's our right path forward to acquire customers in a way that's valuable for our business? If they're more scaled, it's how do we extend programs and expand our impact? And so for me, the problem I solve is how do we get past growth plateaus or even start the growth process through all the experience and knowledge and frameworks I've picked up from my over 10 years doing this kind of stuff now.
Okay, nice. So, you know, you mentioned something there, growth plateaus. I feel like companies are experiencing that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Why do you, why do you think that is? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I'm seeing a number of things. So there's still a bit of a over reliance on, I won't say traditional channels because if something's been around long enough, you can call it traditional. But there's an over reliance on kind of plug and play channels like maybe paid media where people expect to put money into Google Ads and expect leads to come out the other side. I don't know that there's enough thinking about what's the where's the buyer in their process. What is our place in the market, and are people actively searching for a solution, or do they need to be shown a better way of doing things and get to know our point of view and why things are broken and how we can help them fix them? So I think instead of doing what people think they ought to do, which is throw more money into the standard channels, we need to think more deeply about who is our buyer, what's their state of mind, and how do we approach them and have a conversation where they talk to people instead of click on an ad.
Yeah, that strikes me as something that is really quite different to what traditional marketers are used to. When sort of, you know, so used to KPIs like MQLs and SQLs and, you know, sales accepted leads, whatever the acronym of measurement that you might use.
Right.
And, you know, how are they going to switch from that to something that, as you described, that is more sort of, I guess, relationship focused?
Yeah, there's a big gap between the companies I see and work with that are using paid media as a complement to those connections and relationship building programs like in-person events or fostering communities or other kinds of programs where they're directly in touch with their buyers, and others that are just using them in isolation to try to generate demand.
Yeah, yeah. And so previously, when we've spoke, you've mentioned this idea of taking a scientific approach to growth. What does that actually look like in practice, you know, week to week with clients?
Yeah, so in practice, it looks a lot like our high school scientific method that everybody learned. And
Yeah,
so we start with thinking about, okay, what do we know about in high school science, we talked about the world. In this case, we talk about our buyers. So what do we know about our buyers? Who are they? What are they thinking about? How are they thinking about the problem that we solve? And we take that information to think about, okay, what are the kinds of channels that we can show up in that they spend time in? Who are the peers that they listen to? What's the kind of information that they need to help them make a good purchase decision? And then that leads into, okay, what kinds of experiments or programs or campaigns should we build to try to engage those buyers and lead them through the process in a way that helps them understand our point of view and differentiated value, and then gets them to a sales meeting.
Yeah.
Practically, that can manifest as email programs or webinars, but at the strategic level, that's what's happening.
Okay. That strikes me as something that will take time.
Yes, it's not an overnight success, unfortunately.
No silver bullets in growth marketing.
No, there are no vampires either.
Yeah. So looking back at your time scaling data.world, thank you.
Yes.
I'm just correcting myself. Data.world through to acquisition. What lessons from that journey still shape how you run growth today, and maybe touch on a little bit of experience and your influence with Data.world to give our audience an idea of what we're talking about there.
Yeah. So when I joined Data.world, we were just fresh off of our Series A fundraise. So we got a bunch of cash and we needed to bring a product to market that was brand new, hadn't been sold before, especially to the enterprise. And so what it looked like at that time was we were asking these same questions that I asked at the beginning of the conversation about what do we need to understand about our buyer? Who are they? They were chief data officers and VPs of analytics. They spent time looking at Gartner reports and going to those kinds of events. They had certain trade publications they read online, and they were on LinkedIn. And so this process developed from my time there, where we were figuring out what was the right message, offer, audience, and channel mix to approach our buyer and show them a different way of doing things, where that would encourage them to take a sales meeting with us and ultimately result in an enterprise purchase for our enterprise data catalog. And so the thing that I feel that has stood the test of time is that process of being really inquisitive at the front end, being measured and scientific about what we track. You mentioned MQLs and SQLs earlier. Those kinds of numbers are things we care about in terms of we're paying certain amounts of money for how many sales meetings that turn into how many deals. And from that, we have a closed loop of we run programs, we measure them based on our investment and results, and then we repeat the process and scale as we find success, and we understand and diagnose failures as they happen. So to me, that process and also the connection within all of it, the thing I think we were better at than our competitors while we were in the market was we were better at listening to the market for what they wanted and bringing people together in ways that made it easy for them to talk to each other and learn from the thought leaders through events, digital and in person.
Yeah. And what was the time period again with Data.world?
I was there from 2018 through most of 2022. So the Series A to Series C range.
Okay. And I know that was only, 3 years ago, but I feel so much has changed. How much of the lessons that you learned there at Data.world are still relevant for what you're doing today?
I think a lot of it is. I think the principles are the same, even if the tools and the processes and tactics change. So today we have a lot more of agentic AI and new tools that are coming up that extend the capability of a marketer to creating more tools, doing more work, creating more content. But the fundamental process of experimentation and figuring out who our audience is and how do we reach them and how do we facilitate a human conversation with them is still the same.
Yeah. Okay. And if I bring in the fact that we're seeing rising costs and crowded channels, what's changed in growth marketing since COVID, and how do you help clients cut through?
I think what's changed is just saturation. So a similar thing that we've seen in terms of we saw a lot of venture capital money flowing into startups through COVID, and then shortly afterward, a lot of it dried up and started concentrating towards the bigger companies that would scale them. And so with that, a lot of companies, when they have big influxes of cash, will naturally pour money into programs that have been working before. And so they saturate those channels with the same tactics that a lot of other people use. And they may not think as much about being creative and standing out with a big war chest to spend on. And so
Yeah.
now I think it's behooving us to not run those same playbooks over and over again, but to think critically about who is our buyer, how do we be creative with them, how do we get in front of them in a way that's different than others, and that can look like, okay, maybe we still do LinkedIn ads, but we send them an offer that looks like a tool we made in Lovable that helps them understand the value of our product versus
Yeah.
just sending them a gift card for taking a meeting.
Yeah. 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 And I want to bring in the conversation operating system at
Yes,
this point, and the importance of personal brand and go-to-market teams developing personal brand. But I have a couple more questions before we get there.
sure.
Um, the first of which is around that marketing and sales alignment. That new problem. Not.
Indeed.
God, it must have been going on for the 20 years or so I've been in sales. But when we think about attribution and that clash between sales and marketing over attribution, how do you structure attribution so both sides feel aligned and on the same team, as it were?
Yeah. So, and this resonates with me for a number of reasons. One, I talk with people about attribution every day, and
Yeah,
that's marketers, sales leaders. And I've also been a salesperson myself as an SDR. So I understand what it's like to listen to somebody jump in and say, hey, I thought I generated that lead, not you, and that kind of thing. And so for me, the thought that I have is I'm not trying to take money out of somebody's pocket. I'm not trying to take credit from somebody. What I want is to get better leads that close faster and spend more money with us and stick around longer. And you as a
yeah,
salesperson, I'm sure you probably want that. And so all
yeah,
I really want is the information of who those leads are and where they came from so I can get you more of those to close.
yeah, yeah. And if we and I got slightly distracted. I think you have a fan there, Shelby Bruce.
Good to see Shelby. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining.
yeah, yeah. If you've got any questions, Shelby, please don't be afraid to share them. um, but yeah, back to some of the questions I had. So yeah, and the way I think about sales and marketing alignment, coming to this as a sales leader,
Yeah,
there was always that air cover that we wanted.
right.
So we had our own sales strategy. It didn't necessarily align to the corporate approach, right? The overall GTM, because we were hustling. And
Sure.
so, we needed specific initiatives to help, you know, provide the air cover, almost like being on a mission, and
Yeah,
you need that air cover flying overhead, to make sure we've got that visibility going deep and wide across multiple stakeholders, but also additional initiatives could be thought leadership pieces, could be webinars, could be it could be events, more internal than external third-party events, but designed around a specific topic, that our pipeline might be interested in, and we felt from sales that would unstick, some pipeline or help develop relationships further with specific groups. I just feel like that's still a bit of a minefield when it comes to attribution. But some of my best successes were when I was able to tightly align with marketing and
yeah,
almost have them not working for us, but in partnership with
yeah.
that shared go-to-market for what my team was delivering. How what experiences have you got with regards to that? How are you seeing that work or not work? Uh, as a selfish sales leader, you want the focused approach, but then my team was what, I don't know, 40 people, and there were 200 or so sales across the other regions. So I think it's balancing, trying to help marketing balance their focus, balance their time based on the need of sales.
Yeah. Oh, and this reminds me a lot of the kinds of account-based marketing, account-based go-to-market programs I've run, where different kinds of accounts, there are tier one of accounts are the folks who close the fastest, spend the most, and stick around the longest. Those get the most attention and budget from a team. And so we'll have a different set of playbooks and programs for them where we do things like on-sites and bespoke approaches. And even I've been a part of things where we've had an on-site podcast hosted offer for them. And so we'll do things that are a lot more high effort and high value for them. And for other folks, maybe in the tier 2 and below category, they get more segmented marketing based on industry or based on the problem they're trying to solve. And so it's tough to balance, but the work done ahead of time and deciding who's at the top of our account list, especially working with sales teams and saying who's at the top of your list, who do you think is reasonable to close within the next 6 to 12 months, especially in terms of generating pipeline now to get to that point. Where should we focus and lock arms to get those conversations started?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic and so important. The work that I do with the conversation operating system is a key component of it is the territory prioritization.
Yes.
And actually viewing, creating that organization within your territory based on route to revenue.
Yes.
And then aligning around that, aligning the effort, the resources around that. Which I think is incredibly important, as you've seen yourself, having gone through the program fairly recently. So with that, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but in your own words, what problem does the conversation operating system solve for growth teams, and how does it change the definition of success, would you say?
Yeah, for me, the conversation operating system puts the humanity at the center of this work that we're doing in LinkedIn and having conversations about the problems to solve and generating relationships with our buyers. So it creates a closed loop process to continue to have conversations with our market, build real relationships with them, and then start to build programs around that to scale it. And so for me as a marketer, I spend a lot of time thinking about not necessarily automation, but how do I scale what I'm doing so I can have more of an impact? And the conversation operating system is a tight way to continue to keep people close to me while expanding my impact.
Yeah. And if I take great answer, by the way, but if I take a step back, the key principles within the COS is personal brand development, strategic networking, and also storytelling. And storytelling is a way of creating more impactful, authentic content. And so, when I listen to you talk about growth marketing, for me, that's where we've spent the last, 15, 20 odd years enjoying growth marketing as a growth channel, looking at prioritizing our territory, thinking about the value proposition and the messaging that we want to create, and searching and qualifying perhaps the 5% of territory that's in market today, plus the 20% or so that might be considering. And the conversation operating system really helps teams develop their personal brand aligned to that, but also encouraging them to think about those more authentic, things, more personal things that are important to their personal brand, that will then help them connect with their buyers on a human level, even if they're not ready yet to talk business. And so we have is this a question from Shelby, or age-old battle on alignment? Should the BDR SDR team report to sales or marketing?
That's a good one. That's a good one to put me on the spot. For me personally, I've seen it a couple different ways. And as a former SDR, I think about it as there's what's actually going to happen with the SDR team at the end of the day, depending on who they report to. For sales, I think it offers a great path to promotion and getting into account executive and closing roles in sales management. And I also think that it just depends on the sales leader how that role is going to be valued. I think in marketing, it looks a little bit different where this gives the marketing organization a bit more power and control over pipeline because they're actually responsible for setting meetings. But that also means that the responsibility that comes with that power is there, where they're now being asked to own pipeline targets in addition to lead targets. And I think that's the way, but the day-to-day of the job will change too, where SDRs will be a lot more closer aligned to marketing campaigns versus maybe as much as sales targets in some organizations. If they're having
Yeah.
the conversation we had a bit ago, that won't be as true. But
Yeah.
it's I think in general, I still lean towards marketing, but I think it really depends on the leader in charge.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, this is a really tough question as a sales leader,
Yes.
because I would naturally say, well, the BDR should report to sales. But in all honesty, if I look at the work that I'm doing today, it's really about aligning on what those KPIs are.
Yeah.
And if we believe that relationship strength and trust at the individual account and territory level is the most important thing, which it should be, because strong relationships
Yeah.
equal pipeline and revenue, and there's alignment between the leadership running those two functions.
100%.
Then we can start to define, well, what are the KPIs that will lead to stronger relationships, versus meetings for meeting's sake,
Right.
or any other KPI that might not be as relevant, because meeting and conversation, I think, is kind of where it all starts.
Right.
But perhaps Shelby has a view as well.
Yeah. Love to hear it.
Yeah. And then here's Tech. So Tech is a friend of mine. Hi, Tech. Great to see you drop in. So Tyler, so he's putting you on the spot here a little bit. Tyler, are you coordinating your marketing efforts with what the sales team is doing with COS, i.e. helping with content creation, thought leadership, podcasts, etc.? So Tyler's quite new to COS, by the way, Tech, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Tyler.
Yeah, well, I think it goes very well hand in hand, because if that process is being run by the sales team, then there's also a conversation about what needs to get done today to strengthen a relationship with a deal in pipeline or to create new relationships earlier stage for future opportunities. And so a lot of the programs that my team would do are things that could feed into those both those work streams, where whether it's content that a person can take and provide a perspective on and then post on LinkedIn, or that's something that somebody can use to send to a buyer via direct message and say, hey, thought this is relevant based on the conversation we had. Let me know what you think of it, that kind of thing. There's a lot of opportunity for those to work in parallel.
Yeah. I think one thing I've found is that from a content creation perspective, that storytelling perspective, many sales people or customer success people, depending on whether it's sales or new business or retention, customer growth, is content creation is the most difficult thing to do.
Yes.
And so as people are sort of flexing that muscle, training that muscle to create content that is authentic and makes them stand out and look different and encourage their buyers to walk towards them, then it's important to have some sort of central process that helps keep them pointed in the right direction, gives them the support they need in relation to story creation. And that's where I see marketing playing a role, actually, in really supporting the wider GTM team's ability to develop their personal brand with content that does help them stand out as a trusted advisor. and introduce the processes around it. Okay, moving on, and thank you, Tech, for that. Great to see you. In B2B, do buyers connect more with brands or people? Where do you see the balance between corporate brand and personal brand in modern growth?
Yeah, I think in general we haven't evolved enough yet to move away from connecting with people to connecting with brands. And so I don't feel guilty about drinking a Pepsi when I'm more of a Coke person. I do feel guilty when I have to tell a friend that I can't go to the wedding they invited me to.
Yeah.
So to me, it's still until we as humans change significantly, people are going to be what we connect to that happen to be a part of these brands and bring them to life. From a corporate versus personal brand perspective, I think a lot of us hopefully are in opportunities to work with employers that align with our values and the things that we want to see in the world. And so as far as you bringing your personal brand to that, I think that's one thing that'll separate some companies from others that are best at empowering their employees to use their personal brands for promoting the business, promoting their products, promoting their own brands.
Yeah, indeed. And if every marketer is creating AI-driven content,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think personal brand can differentiate in a sea of sameness, right? If you sound the same as your competitor, and actually maybe I'll add a piece, right? So we live in this world where it literally is a sea of sameness for our buyers, and so as marketers, we've typically fine-tuned our messaging because we think that that's going to be the difference. But until they know us, like us, and trust us, they just ain't going to listen to it.
Yeah.
As hard as we try. So maybe I've just loaded the question, but
Well, it aligns with something I've thought for a long time, which is it's the stories that are what make us who we are personally, and the stories that we bring to the things that we sell and on the problems we solve and of our customer success are the things that connect us with our buyers and endear us to them in a way that make us real that an LLM can't do yet and maybe ever. And so for me, the difference and the challenges in a sea of sameness, it's tempting to just do more stuff, create more content, send more campaigns. But I also think it's more important to think about what's the right thing to do for this audience, this buyer, to help them understand our point of view and connect with our way of doing things and who we are, so that when they're ready to buy, they think of us, not just look for the least expensive competitor.
Yeah, indeed. So let's move on to agentic AI. If buyers agents are negotiating with sellers agents, what happens to growth marketing as we know it?
Ooh, I think there's two sides of it. One would be there's going to be a part of it that's going to be a lot more technical SEO and how important that is as a foundation, where you've got to have your metadata in order. You've got to be able to feed the crawlers and make sure that we have a sense of how LLMs pull in information and optimize and generate results for them to each other, so that they're best able to represent what you're selling and what they want in requirements. And so that process can be fairly straightforward. But I think on the other end of it, the challenge will still be, how do we help the human that's signing off on that purchase and swiping the credit card or sending the invoice feel comfortable with that process? Because something happens with the hallucination, who's to blame? Is it the AIs or is it the person that bought the product?
Yeah,
I don't know yet, but I think there's going to be a parallel path of agentic buyers creating short lists and then a human buyer having to make the call, and that likely will still be relationship driven.
Yeah, indeed. It's fascinating. Who knows where and when we're going to be at that point? It does certainly feel like it's not too far away. We're going to be developing our own. I say developing, using prompts to develop our own agentic AI bots to do various tasks. And at what point does the human step in, complete a task like buying a service or buying software?
Yeah. I think we're still very early in that. I agree. Hopefully, it's. I still think there's a need for a human to be deeply involved in that process for a while.
Yeah, I guess depending on how much value you would put on the solution or the
Yes.
pain, the
Yeah,
pain.
I wouldn't mind a bot spending $20 a month for me, but if it spent 2,000, I'd be more concerned.
Yeah, yeah. Now you put it into a different perspective. It's like, okay, hang on. So yeah, I'm actually asking that bot to spend, could be hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of
I don't know if
pounds.
I want to entrust a LLM with that purchase decision.
Yeah, exactly. That will be the thing that will slow it down.
Right.
So in that AI to AI world, what role will human-led personal brands still play, and how should companies prepare for it today?
Yeah, I think still there are going to be instances where people buy from people they know, like, and trust, especially on these higher value purchases that take a lot of time and consensus to build. Even in an AI to AI process where the AIs will be negotiating things like what features are available or not, does this meet my criteria or not? There's still going to be a point where the human buyer has to feel comfortable with the purchase and has to have somebody to talk to about that. We've had customer service agents that are automated for years, and I still hit zero when I need to talk to somebody. So
Yeah,
I think that's still going to be a thing, and also a differentiator more as I feel like there's a big pendulum swing where people are trying to automate and agentify as much marketing as possible. That also makes it less human and less connection forward as possible. And
yeah,
so, with that, if there are more people that people will attach and connect to, especially with how many influencers there are on our social channels, that's a way that brands can prepare today to be able to take advantage tomorrow when people are ready to buy from people more.
yeah. I certainly agree. I really do think that there's an opportunity for brands to empower their people to lean in and help them develop their personal brands, give them the confidence to develop their personal brands,
Yeah.
as a growth, as a revenue accelerator, a growth accelerator for their own business, and that will be the difference.
Yeah.
That will be the competitive advantage. For years, I think it was Challenger, the research I first saw from Challenger on this topic, where 53% of the buyer's decision when making a B2B purchase is based on the experience that they get from the seller.
Hmm.
And so, if all of our sellers, all of our relationship focused people, um, were developing their personal brand, they were becoming the product, they were the difference, they were the reason people bought from them, then I see that as being a really a golden opportunity for businesses today. But I'm a little biased. Anyway, Tyler, it's been fantastic. It's been a great conversation. Thank
Likewise.
you for coming on to Walking Digital Corridors. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you and the services that you offer?
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. And so search my name, Tyler Durman, Durman. If you'd like to come to my website and see what our offers are for fractional head of growth marketing or RevOps, ignitiongrowth.co.
Excellent. All right. Well, until next time, everyone. Tyler, enjoy the rest of your week. For our listeners, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye
Take
bye.
care.